All right. Sorry, the rain was pretty heavy. I had to restart, and now the rain is gone. Promised to be more rain coming. Yep. Let's see. Ta-ta. Sure. Ta-da. All right. 2 days before adding this election. Hmm. Weird things are happening. There it is. Yeah. Talofa. Talofa. This is a Sau'Ai podcast, uh, special interview. As you can see, our topic today will be marijuana. Marijuana.
Let's go.
So let me introduce Joseph Asua, advocate and very informed gentleman. And I'll give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself, Josefa.
Right on. Thank you, Vic, for the opportunity. Yeah, talo falava o loingoyo se fasua and wa kama whanga o tutuila o pango. And at the very moment, at this time of the year, I'm still doing farming and I'm currently in the state of Hawaii.
Right on. Okay, so let's dive right into it. Let's give the people a little bit of education on um, how marijuana is looked at from the past up until current.
Okay. Le mo bolava if you're from Magingwak. Everything that we'll be sharing today is from experience and from my own personal research. And I'll just share a little bit about myself and with the plant, le marijuana, for le medical cannabis food. Amaka mai au, amaka mai lo mamla mai le medical marijuana kemi longo i kimelo kele kiki i Amerika Samoa. Ang sa fa my Votech, class of 2012, and the whole time I was over there, ila onga tech. Makakain sa wavenga vai kemi le o le engineer yamal agriculture, and from agriculture is when I started taking interest in just plants in general and not just cannabis or medical marijuana. And then amaka mai ngalo suisui, amaka mai ngalo maramlama lo fia maramlama le medical marijuana. So mai lo au lava ia suisui nga le medical marijuana. E pei lava o sisi lava la au, pei lava o le kalo, pei lava o le fai, pei lava o le ulu, e fua. And I'm only sharing this a little bit because it relates to the landscape o le kulafungo. Mai mai kemilang kwa maka mai kemilang kwa amaka ngai lor ka kala o mai kemingi. So I'm speaking from in the 2000s. Le kemio ke high school, but we're gonna take it back a little bit. Mai mai le history of la, le history of la o amaka mai le during the 1800s to 1900s. Sa le kere lavangi kula fongo fa kulanga ingo. Ile vai came in the 1800s and the 1900s. Only up until the amakangor kausanga 1900s, like I think 1904. 1904 nga makamay lo nga maram lama ka kanbalo. Le nga ka kamalo pol malo fu Amerika. Ile kele o le ao nga malisilingi mo mai le medical marijuana. So at the time around 1900s, like 1900 to 1910, nga makalonga Kufa Kasile administration of the president at the time, I cannot remember who exactly, but around that time nga maka yung fakulang ngayon le place king at the time the administration e kama fire fika because they could tell le kelele le kama nga le mo le lao. So fakulang ngayon lo kula fongo from 1904 leading up to 1920 around that time. Mga fuanga makanga mga alumalo fakulang ngayon nga kula fongo kaluay. Luolo la me mola luolo la ku ele nga la au le melong lua ole nga la au li kingo kanga. Now let me just share a little bit more about ikako waya kanga. Just human beings alone itself. We're not gonna cover le ku o me ola po mangufui, but we're just gonna stay le ku o le kanga humans. So kung lava ka ko kingo, we all have respiratory systems, we have cardiovascular systems, we have the system or mafau or system or kingo, like kele lava function is a kingo. Now, added to that body of systems, ele system ko kingo ekaw or the endocannabinoid system. Now, lovisili la ya early Vic, you tell me pe ese medicine ilvai kaimingi was made specifically molo kingo. There's a system in the body that it regulating le kingo or back au mafale le vaila apole medicine food. Do you know if there's any medicine out there that has such importance or impact you can go kingo?
Legally, no.
So that's why I honestly think ika wala aule koe ole la awe winga isi mai la uma, because we cannot say le sistema kung kingo was meant for le ulu or the kalo or the kipolo. We cannot say that about those plants, but we can say that about this plant. So that fact alone separates this plant from all the plants that we know. That's the first part. And then the second part, lisi la aula. Ese umaya functions po meyele mo me la aula. Ikukong kako kingo. What I mean to say is, ese functions le compounds kung lo kingo. Ese foi chemical compounds kung lo kingo. And that's to say, le la au foile. Ese ma compounds mo white. There's a whole bunch, like I'd say like 100 plus, but Bella focus ay kilo kang ako o le compounds o le THC o le CBD, CBDG, and so on and so forth.
CBDA.
So I wanted to mention that because ole history le la. Now we go back to le kula fongo. So makama le 1904 mafakulang ay nga kula fongo. The first set of regulations kaluay, we'll find out in malu. E mo fer kupe. Now kanga kaya le fanga le medical marijuana po le marijuana fo e award kamaing. Just like anything, ele ku se po fanga se fo. Now amang faku nang inga kula fo kalo we'll find out in malu. Kanga kaya le faka le marijuana. They're not doing it with full integrity. What I mean to say is, ikan kaya le faka le medical marijuana po marijuana food. Ele 100% le lady kau singo lao po le fao lo ngo fo lao. Now this is the part where le kile concern ko ako. Na fe me kile ko. Ele lo po ambe ala ko ele adi le lao.
Right.
Yeah. Given that, ol mafu ang ngaling faku lang ang ngalong kula fong ol malo is to help regulate testing mamefa penga umalava ya ensure be guarantee for me umaile kamo farang ka pa faka esefi li si foi mer ma fo nga nga foi kula fo o le label se inga ingo o medicine. What I mean by that is if ele fok fala au ku me lele kua mo le label lunga. Ai le accurate pe mo I foia me lunga le label le whala out. Now those are all valid reasons as to why konga regulate la out. But just a little bit of explanations of kula fongo. So amaka mga nga 1904, Samuel 1937. Just like we had the alcohol prohibition, we had something similar to that. Each year, find out al maro kele le kamao ainga kele foi issue si le kula I might, and leading up all the way to 1971, ile ngofo inga President Nixon. That's when wo moking mo le maro le aila ikele sa or se lingi le mo mai. Now we had to figure out por ase kau finga po se regulating fo mfe malonga foi le nga kai mo se lingi malo na ia manguia foi le ngofo nga foi kel. And that was the result of the 1971 the war on drugs.
Right.
And around this time, I'm pretty sure na kele kako veterans po kanka saka kuelava came that can speak on this. Wala ko yung impact may le kay Mila Nixon. Now we're not gonna touch too much ile ku ole po ia whangaing o le medical marijuana. We're just gonna stick to the public side.
Yep.
So 1971, just for FYI, for everyone that does not know or have any idea about it, this was when the scheduling of drugs started. Scheduled 1 all the way to 5. 1 being the most harmful and then 5 being the least. Now, le whaingala ole o whawhasenga ingo o whasenga ia lima more drugs. E lua lava qualifications, or I would say requirements. Le requirement mo mua and me e ka kaunga e se medical value, which they've already figured out in the 1800s leading into 1900s. If it has a medical value, and in a second, if it's addictive, if it's highly or less addictive, which they've classed it into highly addictive, hence why le kokongu or le scheduled 1.
Right.
Now, just a little bit more info about schedule 1s. O drugs le kokongu le scheduled 1, por vasenga mo mua ale allow schedules. E mo waile aisa. E mo waile heroin. E mo waile cocaine. E mo waile LSD, por le acid. Ia mo le medical marijuana.
Right.
Now, mai I drugs ia lima le kokongo le vasenga lea. 4 of those, like I mentioned, the 2 qualifications, they all hit it.
Into that.
Except for 1. I wonder what it is. Medical marijuana. Medical marijuana checks off those 2.
Yeah.
In the sense of ele medical value, ko ele addictive for. Now, I'd say addictive to an extent, just because, just like anything, more of something is not always good.
Right.
And that's where le hesitation for the concerns for the public. If it may see addictive, just like anything good, like if we're gonna say addictive, we're gonna say that too for food.
Alcohol.
Now, now just like anything, at the ending of the day, because it is a choice, just like food, just like medicine, it's the same thing.
Right.
So medical marijuana checks off those 2, the medical value or less addictive. Now, if we're gonna think logical and reasoning, loa ulavaya mafawfaw, sale kakao ngai ko kongu le medical marijuana ile schedule it, because ele fkau. Now we're not gonna get into the deep woods of that, but I just wanted to make mentions of that just to cover the scheduling of the drugs.
Yeah.
Now, Aside from the scheduling of drugs, because we have to mention too, now that we're talking about law, we have to talk about those impact by the law.
Yeah.
And then, no, I'm gonna backtrack one more time, Vic, because I cannot go over the fact the melang kupu for the chemi or the alcohol prohibition. About for the prohibition of the alcohol, because we'll find out in malu. Kele yung mo fafika le kula imay the alcohol. Now, problems in kula imay the alcohol is nothing compared to the issues here more with the medical cannabis, and I say that in the sense of isilia kung makuya maleanga ya fafika yung kula imay vai chemi the alcohol prohibition. Now, it makes sense as to why they made it. If I kula for a confessor song a counter le fafika the alcohol. From 1800s up to 2000s, like 2024, it still doesn't match up. Like alcohol. So fast forward from the alcohol into medical cannabis. I still agree like a kaula vangang like medical cannabis in the schedule 1. Now fast forward to this past presidency administration, the presidency of Biden. I'm not gonna get into politics that much, but I'm just gonna say Biden, which was to declassify, descheduled the schedule 1 medical marijuana, medical marijuana might 5, the scheduled 5. Now if we look into the schedule 5, we're all consuming those type of drugs,
Yeah.
medically. When it goes into schedule 5, that means if I prescribe metformin just like regularly. Now I want to say something about schedule 5 too, or just all the drugs in all those different classes. All of those drugs are all man-made. That's one. And then two, those specific drugs target one specific issue. Whether
Right.
it be Prozac, etc. You cannot say that about medical marijuana, because medical marijuana targets so many. Like it's not just one, like versus compared to the pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
One versus, let's just say for those medical marijuana. If you consume a strain and you consume it for a specific reason or multiple reasons, you might think it's only targeting 5, but you have no idea it's targeting more than 5, because it's a compound so the oil medical cannabis. Whether it be lomafofao, or your muscle ache, migraines, etc. There's just so much to name, but I'm just naming
Seizure.
that. Now, one cannot say that about pharmaceutical versus medical marijuana, but that's just a little summary of what I've known so far and
Right on.
my research.
So that's it's a great history. Whether they eat male by eating medical or marijuana or cannabis, right? Igela here Samoa, America Samoa. So far, Kokiro Ganga they're still wondering, well, I remember way they legalize. I mean, male money for Samoa, male America, the more more cocaine, more meth, and mixed meth, more the heroin. It's only about time I think of what you can put ecstasy lang ba. I
Would it be
some
surprised?
reason, or bus city by the last 2 years. Uh, Rarely maybe one or two meth busts, but there was an issue in telling you. There was Pasikulaka Valley Lumor Falling in front of you. And they saw the plant in front of the house, Lumor Falling. Of course, when we called back up, or aku kasi umala. It was quite a bit. But man, oh boy, I haven't heard a case of it. There's a case, there's a charge, but no other allowed. To me, there's a singer, or Sarganka, say you call him, at least call him.
Exactly.
And again, that's me. But kaya may nga ro five up in nga ingi. Kalway, upa maka videos. You know, there's still some rights. Kusa pipa pia. They put some rights under the U.S. Constitution, but there is some rights that's adapted with the American Samoa Constitution. So that's politics. Let's talk about medication. Email that you were exposed to and the research you had. With the very little research I did, which is quite extensive, but I found that University of Israel, University of Hawaii, Idaho, Washington State, they have a pharmacology department, but they also have it's in the what the word? It's agriculture is part of it, but they have the studies, especially the University of Israel. That is probably the most extensive research that they did. And the people that they work with, seizures, cancerous tumors, Alzheimer's. You know, the problem that came over with the pharmaceutical stuff. A little history. I want to share this with you and my audience. I was diagnosed 5150 while I was in California. It was either go to counseling or go to jail. And so I went to counseling, and one after the other, same program, same spiel. And then go to psychiatrist, prescription, out. Take this for 30 days. All the exotic names, I took it without even knowing. It was destroying my kidneys. And that went on for years. So I was fortunate at the right place at the right time that I was advised, try cannabis. And I think, I don't know. He goes, oh, I'm a doctor. Like, you're a doctor? Says, yeah. You know, it's a Chinese guy. He not only had medical license to practice, you know, modern medicine, but he was also a holistic healer. So it was the best of both worlds. So I tried it, I mean, in the form of a tea. And I said one day, what do I smoke this? Like, oh,
Let's
man.
go.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm pretty good. So I took it upon myself to cut the pills. And there was a little bit of fear at the beginning. You know, keeping people out might drive me back to insanity. No. So, so nothing. But if full stigma, you know, those that scream, I mean, like bingo, we get Ja, impa ngau.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up. Love for Coupe. Complain, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, so what are some email that you know of about the medical part of it? Or when we ate on.
Okay. Of City, Vic. I want to share my experience so far in the field. um, like I mentioned before, I'm a class of 2012, and right after 2012, mako travel i America. If I wale ma onga malok masang, I have a twin. Now, this was in 2012. Uh, Fast forward to 2014, graduated college, and uh, I decided to, explore Poaisi, Awalaye, Manguye, America. And one of those ways was a little classmate, teammate, Lolangi follow wa, and he was the one that helped me get into the industry, and we started off doing security. Makama was our security way more warehouse, and we never knew this whole time we were doing security. We were doing security for warehouses that had medical cannabis in it.
Mm.
Um, we all had different beliefs, right? Everything happens for a reason. Makamalo interest in the high school ilalao, Sau'Ai le kolisi. I've got into security, and then fast forward, sa Makamau security more warehouse. Eventually, I started working inside the dispensaries, and then I'll move my Hawaii, and then I've got to work in the distribution center. Now, and I'm only mentioning this because because we're gonna cover um Hawaii. Guaya, California, because it's been legal over there, and we all know I didn't have much experience as to why the deep understanding of all the benefits or other than the fact of, you know, but it wasn't until 2018 o le distribution center. Now, now we're not going to cover that in this one. We're just going to cover the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Now, o benefits o la'au, o me momola vai kong mamla veka ko ia ilese malama mai la'au. Just like how you mentioned, Vic, sa low hesitation e come fine. It's the same thing for everyone. Now, ele term le microdose, just like anything, I'm pretty sure if a wolf for mo for ma ia ka kaile I ka mo fine ngot fala. Amma kaile size like iki. Like you said, afo fala au me penga. Start off small. Now, o le la'au, o le ka ua o mawhonga le ngaka kaunga nga whaakau mai lo medicine I ko kongo le dispense. Now le dispense usually my information so la'au. Now just like when you go purchase a medicine or like over the counter, e mo my information so o le whala'au lunga o le description. Now, me mo buanga kong malama mai ka mawhawhau mo pole alanga issue. What's the health issue or whatever reason why you want to try it. Mengai kong mawhawhau mo me longa lua kong mawhawhau I le whala'au le la kau Now le la'au foi kim lang sa whangalanga kong o le I o le DC. E kele ia mo forms ese. Like you've mentioned, e le pill, e le tincture, e le syringe, e le lotion, e le olive oil. There's just so much to name, but those are just a few of it. E kong mamla mo pola le whanganga, mo pola whanmele kam whai o e heal or e cure. Be so swangi for manage low pain. me muanga me longa lua I me long kolu. O kimi le kau mawhai le medicine. Au la vangi so ngai ngai whai. What I mean by that is aongi so ngalui ngā kele pe fui so you shouldn't be operating any machineries, let alone your car when you're taking the medicine. Just because le sing ole fala ole le kau mafa mo le mungu me fa penga po le suswangi tele no me fa penga because we're gonna get into the deep of Lakewood law enforcement later. But what I mean to say is impairment is impairment. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol, it doesn't matter if it's medicine. It's not because so let me just clear that out first. Now, on my fuanga kaunga consider le ka mawhainga la ali avenga. Ye mon me muri level. Out give me the ka mawhai. Make sure that you tell someone that you're about to take it. Ma fuanga menga ye ingi ke wo kupu mo se fala vela. Ele si o la kala kai fo ya. And then me mo buanga me longa lua. O kankale le va I or monitor late or po a suinga po a frio ngai o inga e fua mai le medicine lua ro ka ma
Right. Oh,
so me me ka ua ngai ka ma fa mu ai ali ka ma fa ngala but or ngā mea uma o me sili mo mua lava ali ka ma fa ngala po le medicine for you e kaunga e consult ma lo for ma if you have a doctor. Now, if you don't have a doctor, I suggest you find one and just start sharing with him or her what you're thinking about as far as medicine goes. I'm not too sure if I answered your question, Vic, but
yeah,
I'll just
that's pretty much, so we've gone over a brief history, in government and also some medical information. And so get it up and up for the listener that you're listening to this. Do your own research. Don't just Google. I mean, Google the universities that do marijuana research and go into it.
Vic,
Yep.
sorry, can I just add in one more thing?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Now, o pela nga share ku Vic I ao nga si ese mo state si ese. E kau whenga ngofumam lambak ang kako kang kasamo. Makwa behind o kako. Again, in all honesty, makwa behind na kako. Vai kako ya isala like Vic mentioned. E leila vases mafuanga ese other than the fact of medicine research. Lenga mafuanga nga faya isala research them. And it's not just Israel. Mexico has done it. Panama has done it. Since we're talking about different countries, it's only right that we mention other U.S. territories that are already doing it. Two of those is Guam and Marshall Islands. And that's just right now. Like, who's to say 10 years from now, more territories are going to be added onto that list? My question is, what are we waiting for? Like Vic said, now, let me just say this, because ole medical marijuana for ya, like I said, ole la ko kele yo lo fai fakwang. Now, ang fuma fa ka ko ya kungu, ora kungu fai fakwang.
Yeah.
Why not give the people the opportunity to grow their own crops? And thank you for mentioning the situation nga Vic about you know, just like you mentioned, that's how far this is, the issue or the medical marijuana. Because that's like me coming into your house. That's a right. That's a medical right.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue now. I say that because it's not just us that's going through this process. Kung uumbaya before they got to the point that they're at now, they went through the same issues that we're about to go through. And I say that because why go through all the trouble when we could just learn and say, oh, minute mafuangane wale kwe valid le kula fong, because we also gotta understand kula fong umma no fakaki is from the people, and it's up to the people to change it. Now, I say that because of the parle pakingo il malo. Now, if I we don't have to like do any deep research. Just look into the United States. Now, to voice their opinions, to voice their thoughts and how they feel about this. But I would say there has to be a law reform to happen for that to change, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But I just say that because of Mele Pakimo for the Malu, because once again, all the many million issues that we have, not just Meko politics, but also Mayut
Yep. So,
Can I add a few more, Vic? Because I'm just
by
going through my.
all means, keep going.
I want to mention a few more things too, because before we started this discussion about having this live, I've also reached out to other people and other officials to say, are all high elected officials. I'm not gonna drop any names, but I am gonna say this: they all support it. They have an idea of how beneficial it is if we do it. Now, one thing in common that they all mentioned too, is but as far as support wise, they all support it. Now, for those that don't support it, I'll just say it's because they're not informed.
Right.
I think they're not informed, but I wanted to mention that because positions to make an impact, and they know they can make an impact, but they're not doing it for whatever reason. I think we have to work from there first.
Right.
Start from there first. Because we already have people in positions that can help us push, but there's a few things holding them back. But I want to work on that to help them push through. But I've also, yeah.
So I need to mention that when I interviewed Congresswoman Amata, she made a really, really valid point. Amata wasn't so much for or against it. What she made clear to me, like I mentioned about the vets. So please encourage vets that are utilizing marijuana, molako, whatever it's, with their with the PTSD and other ailments. Please, when you see Amata, talk to Amata.
Thank you for mentioning that, bro. Since you mentioned VA, I know you've been saying it this whole time, but it never clicked. What all of VA, Vic? 2 times, and those 2 times I went, they all support. They came in sa all VA. VA is federal funded, and that itself alone would explain everything. Because from Elako, we all support it, but as far as helping you guys with this, our hands are tied because we're federally funded, and whatever happens on the federal level in terms of laws, it applies to them. But one thing for sure, VA, and I'm not gonna mention any names to the VA, VA of Susongi, but one thing for sure, I 100% support what you said.
Yeah.
I support it.
Because I know that she's well aware of the federal side up. American Samoa has that in the data sessions, that self-determination.
Mhm.
So we determine our own rules and laws.
Mhm.
And so that point was very valid, and it opened my eyes that she understands the issue. And what she was getting at, if the local voters, especially the veterans, voice their concern about medical marijuana, then she's going to look into it and support it. So
Mhm.
that's pretty important.
Yes.
Um, let me bring on. Let's see.
If you guys have any questions, throw them on.
Yeah, let's see. Andrew James.
Let's
Where,
go.
where are you, Andrew James?
What's up, bro?
Andrew James, are you coming on to this program? Dun, dun, dun. It's blinking. It's blinking.
Come on. Come on.
Uh, sorry, the connection here in American Samoa is slow.
Oh,
We
lovely.
millions and millions of dollars, and we get this
Mhm.
connection.
That's
All
what
right.
I'm.
Decline. Yeah. Ayo, ano kami? Parang ko nga. Andrew James is my producer in the stuff that we go in interviews, and he's very, very much. As we know, we're both members of Cannabis 684,
Mhm.
and we're trying to get the word out, especially the young people. That we see that, man, it's just sad to see the young people turn to meth. And,
Mhm.
you know, with that, instantly they get hooked instantly.
Mhm.
So can you speak something about that?
Um, the term that I want to use back on when it comes to all the harsh drugs is harm reduction. And harm reduction is, I'm not saying this is the best solution, but I will say this is the less harmful solution. Um, what I mean by less harm is, you tell me, Vic, what would you pick? Would you pick someone that that has drank more than, I'd say, 6 beers and then get behind the wheel and drive, or someone that took their medication and is well aware, um, malamalama, to drive the car? You tell me, who would you pick?
I send them in the cab.
Let's go. I only say that because ang mafofoka o le impact o me back out mafoka ko ka. Ikilak me le anga kupupa ka mafoka ka le alcohol.
Right.
Now I'm gonna mention this too just because we're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done some research and I've pulled up the data. Well, mailing mo melo information mo by the Department of Commerce, the local stat yearbook. I think it's 2020 to 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And from that stat book, the mo work on information sa the total count of kangkay nga kalaiva o nga DUI,
Yeah.
kangkay the fatal rate, etc.
Right.
And then now I'll get those numbers next time we share.
Oh, no
But
problem.
ole data nga, there's a good indication that ole issue ke lea ole alcohol. I'd say just for number's sake, I'd say like 10 against 1, 10 to 1 ratio
Yeah.
alcohol. Now, in the category of the drugs, they didn't specify the ISA, heroin. They just like a general umbrella for all. Now, I guarantee you, if they wouldn't specify more categories, I'm pretty sure weed would be the least of those.
Yeah.
The least of the issues. Now, back to meth. Meth harm reduction. Um, sorry, Vic. Backtrack one more time. As far as history-wise, ile meth. Iko kong ole midgeli. The military used it at one point, and they used it specifically more alvanga le waki ile boat.
Right.
Just stay up. The military community can speak on this for those who have experienced it. But I came across that, and a few more people I came across. They've testified to that. Like, oh yeah, meanga makong sa fai lavai kay.
Right.
You know, what kale kofi po la lavan men kama farlako. They had to tend to that, but that was like a temporary solution to an issue that they had. But as far as meth goes, um, harm reduction, le medical marijuana. For those who I've talked to and they've shared their stories, the medical marijuana is the best alternative for them. We're not going to get into the deep woods of the psychological, mental health of it. But just from experience, they've noticed a big difference versus the Melili. But I also know they also do medical cannabis too as well. Now, it all comes down to the access. Um, what what you have access to fast, quick. Quick on fee. Now, ngai mafu mai le alu lungo le isa. Nga ka le kau pa le access foot. Now, you mentioned vehicle mengale solo kongo kakoa kumu. And I 100% stand behind this. Legalize the medical marijuana to help alleviate this issue. I'm not saying it's going to take it away.
No.
I'm not saying it's going to completely destroy it no more, because lisi cool melalivik this is their income. This is their proof of their way of income. Now, at the end of the day, we all make our choices. What you do is what you do, and how you get your money is how you get your money, legal or illegally. That's on you. But I wanted to mention that because afapela molau kule asa. Just the FYI, molau kule asa. I'm not knocking on your guys' hustle, but I am knocking on the impact of what you guys are doing. Like, greed and all that comes into play. I'm not gonna speak on that, but I am gonna say that instead of Aisha, why not? And I'm not promoting activities either. I'm just saying, just something to think about.
Yeah.
But
So
as far as
you mentioned access, but the access they say they go by produce markets, well, gulay la lo pai,
yeah,
gulay pasap, gulay market, mo kuya so nga ba pe ko so it's all over, you know, and then so marijuana and meth o sa pasuiva kasi ka kay ni Samoa, you know, a meth user also uses marijuana, and to the meth users I know from it brings the high down so they can sleep. Like I said, man, sometimes faso, limaso, like faso, limaso. So, yeah, once they're on, they want to be on.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I want the whole island to know that. Going the fact of
Yeah,
why don't you want to consider the plant there that helps you go to sleep,
yeah,
helps you with your pain? It is a sad fact that like you said, like give me a code before you could just go out and get it. It's right there. Now I also know you see that Melivik or the concern niya ka or the mufong fight is the Melako or the medical marijuana or the gateway drug.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like us trying to say legalize the meth. And if medical or the meth or the gateway to marijuana. No, it's not like that. Although it although it might seem like that, but that's not the case in most cases. I would think that mukhang kaya le need mo me suswangi na kokin. It's a conscious decision to make.
Yeah.
It's a personal decision to make. Like pio lelo magakoa over the ingu the next day hangover. Now why go through all that issue and all that pain where you could just take this
Yeah.
plant, take it. The same way you go to sleep is the same way you're gonna wake up.
That's pretty good. Pag
Mm-hmm.
kaya admit ay o spa ka Lofia Superman umaga ka uma. So I got a picture of Arcady. I believe I
Yeah.
can fly. So we put it pa ngai whatever. Pa uma mo pa ni pa pe la dito. Anyway, po mga ka kalungo. Yes, if I'm we're going to keep at this issue in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a couple more times, and then we'll bring on some other people. I've got a guy who's a doctor that he is still thinking if he wants to be seen and heard,
Mm-hmm.
because respect to him, he doesn't want to lose his career,
Mm-hmm.
but he's trying some things with, a disguise or even
Mm-hmm.
if I had the technology to blur his face and voice.
Yep.
So I'm working on that. And, there's a lot of people wanting to come out. I probably
Mm-hmm.
not admit to be on camera, but,
Yep.
we'll pray that they'll come around.
Mm-hmm.
But brother, so, Sunday, I know we have a lot of, family time, family things to do,
Mm-hmm.
but we made this effort and to put it together. So one last thing. When I mentioned that we have a runoff election in 2 days,
Okay.
for all the listeners out there and all your friends, that to encourage your families who are here to vote. I
Mm-hmm.
really, I have the person that I support,
Yep.
but it's important because there were 7,000 registered voters that didn't vote in the election on November 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of those 7,000 are here, I'm reaching out to you guys. Your families here and they're registered to vote. This process is important.
Mm-hmm.
It's because there's I have a lot of issues with that. But I live in American Samoa now, and they
Yep.
do too. So I want good Korea. But if you want to know who to vote for, PNP.
PNP. Let's go.
All right, brother.
Yes.
Maguire, what's up? And
Thank
we'll
you.
pick up again.
Thank you, Vic. To
All
the
right.
next
Thank
episode.
you. Yeah.